comments. We have no public comments. Ladies, thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation. Next, we have Louisiana Key Academy, North Shore. Good afternoon, ladies. Please state your name and your affiliation with the applicant. And if you haven't already done so, please fill out a comment card so we'll have that for the record as well. You may proceed when you're ready.
I am Heather Bouchard, principal of Louisiana Key Academy, joined by my colleague John Cartwright, special education coordinator, and our Dr. Laura Castillo, board chair.
All right, thank you. You may proceed with your presentation.
The proposed Louisiana Key Academy North Shore, a school for students with dyslexia, builds on the highly successful experience of our IMSLEC accredited Baton Rouge campus, whose mission is to educate and remediate children with dyslexia in an evidence-based curriculum, and to stand as an excellent model and resource for other schools and communities. So what is dyslexia and why does it matter? Dyslexia is defined in Louisiana law as an unexpected difficulty in reading for an individual who has the intelligence to be a much better reader, most commonly caused by difficulty in phonological processing, which affects the ability of an individual to speak, read, and spell. Dyslexia affects 1 in 5 individuals and knows no racial or economic boundaries, affecting boys and girls equally. This means that 20% of the school-age population struggles with reading, which also affects writing, math, and access to grade-level content in science and social studies. When unidentified, dyslexia has the potential to damage the mental health and self-esteem of children. The North Shore School furthers our vision to impart to the community a better understanding of dyslexia, its prevalence, the importance of early identification, and an evidence-based education to ensure better outcomes for children. Our vision for our students and all students with dyslexia is that they are educated and equipped to succeed in high school and college so that they may reach their full potential. The North Shore campus will serve a diverse population of students in grades 1 through 8 who have been tested by LKA and determined to have dyslexia. There are no evidence-based, tuition-free public or private school options that provide a full day of education designed for the dyslexic child in the North Shore area. There is after-school tutoring for those that can afford it, but no best practice model for that specialized school for a full day of students of all income levels. Currently, parents only have the option of driving 60+ miles to and from Baton Rouge daily, which many have done. A North Shore campus provides an alternative to a long drive and an opportunity for more children to benefit from a full day program specifically designed for students with dyslexia. This campus is intended to serve St. Tammany and the surrounding parishes. And Ms. Cartwright will now provide more information on the model.
Sure. So the innovative LKA North Shore campus is built upon 6 pillars. So one of those is early diagnosis and evidence-based instruction. So LKA North Shore encourages the enrollment of students in 1st grade, as it is established that the achievement gap exists as early as 1st grade and it persists through adolescence. The longer the delay in identification and remediation, the less the gap is able to narrow. Also, we focus on the implementation of evidence-based instruction. So in alignment with recommendations from national experts, Dr. Sally and Bennett Shaywitz, and the national reading panels, students will engage in a minimum of 150 minutes of structured language arts 5 days a week. We also have small class sizes and personalized instruction. So students have multiple opportunities for feedback in small groups in all classes. They read grade level connected text aloud, solve grade level math problems, and they progress through the writing process in all content areas. Reading groups are 6 students to 1 trained teacher. We also have flexible grouping, so students work in instructional groups determined by student progress, which allows them to move as quickly or with as much repetition as necessary to become a better reader. Our teachers are trained in dyslexia and dyslexia education. Teachers become certified academic language therapists, CALTs, or practitioners, CALTs. Teachers who obtain this level of requirements are considered experts in teaching the dyslexic child to read using evidence-based practices. And we have some more information in the application as far as what that looks like. We also do a lot of continuous professional development and data analysis. Teachers are able to continue to develop their understanding of dyslexia every year. They have dedicated time to individualize instruction to their students' individual needs with feedback from experts in dyslexia. This school design has been proven successful, serving students with dyslexia at LKA Baton Rouge, which has operated for 8 years and now serves 430 students in grades 1 through 8. There is not another school in the North Shore area that offers such an innovative approach to addressing the unique needs of students with dyslexia.
Great timing. Thank you, ladies. I also have, let's see, questions from the board first. President Holloway.
I have to be fair to ask questions to everyone. Thank you for being at the table. My question here is if you're opening up a school, hi Laura, right? Good to see you. In this area, what is it? St. Tammany. Well, it's Jen's area. What does the demand look like? What is your I don't want to call it a wait list, but what do you foresee? And are you drawing children from Jefferson, what other area? Or Florida parishes? Can you talk through this?
Absolutely. So we intentionally are calling it LK North Shore so that we are drawing from all the parishes surrounding St. Tammany, and additionally South Shore, Orleans, if we're able to. So we're really looking at strategic locations that allow for families to travel over the bridge. So currently we have students that travel from the North Shore area. We have families that travel from Lafayette. We have families that travel from Orleans Parish. We've had families move here from other states to come to our school. So we see the demand increase as more people know and understand what the school does and what dyslexia is. So yes, we're looking at
Your enrollment. Yeah, what does it look like?
Enrollment in the new school. So we would start with around 96 students in year 1, and then by the end of year 5 at the 360 mark.
Just like what you've done this previous.
That's
year.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what how LK Baton Rouge started as well. Sure.
What grade will you be doing?
It would be 1st and 2nd grade, so it would be a 1st through 8th grade school.
Thank you.
We would start with 1st through 4th grade, which is a reflection of the demand that we see here in Baton Rouge, where unfortunately students aren't identified until that 3rd and 4th grade year. So we want to make sure we're meeting the needs of the community. We know early 1st and 2nd grade is best, that's getting those kids in 1st grade, but there's such a demand at the 3rd and 4th grade year.
Right, Mr. Garvey.
Yeah, let me ask first, do we have any speakers, public comment?
Yes, we do.
I'd like to hear from those first.
Okay,
before.
right. Next, we have Dr. Laura Cassidy, who is here, and if you wish to speak, Dr. Cassidy.
Hello, thank y'all to all BESE members for what you do. Actually, I don't have anything to say. I think there's some other people that have comments, and so
Right.
I really wanted to be here to answer questions after the full discussion.
Excellent, thank you very much. Next, we have up to speak is Danny Garrett, who opposes the recommendation, wishes to speak. We have Dr. Dana MacArthur, who wishes to speak. And then we have Frank Chavia, who will provide information only, wishes to speak. And if you gentlemen, Mr. Garrett, Dr. MacArthur would come up first, we'll then take up Mr. Chavia. We have 2 chairs.
He's Superintendent Chavia, so I think Tammy's thought it'd probably be more appropriate if he spoke before I did.
Mr. Superintendent, protocol is quite appropriate that you would speak first, and in fact, we're going to put Daniel last.
Thank y'all for having me. Superintendent Frank Jackson sits in with me is Board President Brandon Harrell. I just want to quickly go through a few things. First off being, this charter school has not come before our board or a third-party administrator because their application was ruled incomplete. When we were evaluating their application, on the assurance page, there's 17 questions here, and not one of those was answered. And the only one that was denoted NA, which is not even a choice. But I want to get to the real issue, and that is dyslexia. And I appreciate what Key Academy, Louisiana Key Academy does for students with dyslexia. But in St. Tammany, we address dyslexia across our district in all 55 schools, not just 1st through 8th, but in all of our schools. And that is evidenced by what our school performance score is at St. Tammany, which is an A, B, or C in all 55 of those schools. So I want to just be very clear that we have the curriculum and the support to address dyslexia in our schools. We do, and we commit to doing that with our students every day. So I just want to be transparent and give you all the information you needed to make a decision in the future. Okay?
Great, thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you.
All right.
Is he gonna hang out?
Yes, Mr. Superintendent, if you hang out, there might be some questions for you. Do you want to ask them now of the superintendent, or do you want the other speakers?
Sure.
Mr. Superintendent, since you already have the hot seat, we'll just keep you there.
Sure.
Sure. Can you walk us through the application process from Key Academy, and you're saying that they didn't
Sure. So
17?
right. So the application process, it comes to us, and then we evaluate it for eligibility determination, and then we just make sure that everything is there and appropriate before we send it over to a third-party administrator and then bring it before our board. So we couldn't bring it any further because the application was incomplete. I informed Key Academy of this. I informed the department of this through Ms. Barker, and they all knew where we stood and what was missing from the application. We denoted that clearly.
Okay, hopefully there was some conversations and dialogue with you and Key Academy. Did you give her or Key Academy a timeline to complete these 17 or whatever?
We were already past the deadline at that point.
Okay.
The deadline had been met at that point.
I'm sorry, but the deadline to
Submit their application. to
submit
us.
application.
Yes, ma'am.
And in that application that was submitted, there were 17
There's 17 attributes to.
attributes that were not answered.
They were not answered at all. And
So
the only
did
one
you-
that said was NA next to it instead of yes or no or whatever the case
So
may
did
be.
you go back to Key Academy and ask for
No
answers?
ma'am, no ma'am, we did not. We reported that to the department and to them that it was missing.
Okay.
Okay.
For right now.
All right, great. Mr. Garvey?
Yes. Superintendent Javia. That's, all those questions were on one page?
Those are on one page, yes,
And
sir.
it's one page out of how many
It
pages?
was quite a few pages. I don't have it in front of me. It's
heard it
probably
was-
100 pages of different documentation that's submitted for that.
Close to 200 is what I
Right.
heard, one page out of 200. And did they tell you that there was an electronic problem with copying the electronic signature or check mark?
I don't see how that's possible because the signature is there and the date is there. So I don't understand how there would be a problem with that.
So they did not tell you that, or?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir.
Okay. Did you receive a letter from their attorney explaining that the denial or the determination of a charter application being incomplete is not the duty of the superintendent, but is the duty of the school board itself?
I don't remember receiving that. If I did, everything that we've talked through Ms. Barker, it was the determination of the committee that was set forth to review this application before it went to a third party or to the board.
Is Ms. Barker here? Okay. Is it your understanding that the superintendent gets to decide if a charter application is complete or incomplete, or is it the school board's duty to do that?
That's their local district that gets to decide that. And so we respect the autonomy of the local parish to determine whether or not the application is complete. We don't do that.
Is Ms. Joan Hunt here? Could you come to the stand, please?
Okay,
So the question is whether the superintendent or the local school board determines that the application is complete?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the local school board are the ones that vote on it. So I would say it was the local school board.
In fact, I think our regulation states specifically that it's the local school board that has to make the determination.
Yep.
And I read a letter that supposedly was sent to you by their attorneys. I think it was 2 letters that stated that for you. I could be wrong. I will try to get a copy of those letters for you. But my understanding is that it was brought to your attention by their attorneys. So if I'm wrong, I apologize, but if I can get a copy of these letters, I will get those.
We dealt directly with the department, with Ms. Barker, and she informed us what the process was, and we followed that process.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barker.
Mr. Castillo,
Sure.
the question I have, is Joey on?
Yes, yes, ma'am, Ms. Oliver.
Were you able to have a conversation with Key Academy to say your application is incomplete? I'm sorry, we can't accept it until it's complete, and you come back the next round?
I did. I sent that letter to them. I didn't have a conversation. I communicated that by email to them, that they were more than welcome to apply in the future, but the deadline had passed and the application was incomplete. Correct, I did.
Because normally, school systems do attempt to work with the applicant and negotiate and compromise and say, okay, go back to the drawing board and work this out, and then come back again.
Yes, ma'am.
So I want to note that you gave them the opportunity to come back.
I did.
A year later?
Yes, a year later, yes, sir.
A year later?
Because the deadline had already passed, correct.
Mr. Barber?
Yes, back to Ms. Hunt, if I could. The BESE regulation and state statute, I believe also, which states that it's the school board's duty to make the determination of whether an application is complete or incomplete. I think that process also requires that the applicant be given a chance to respond to any claims that there are problems with the application. Can you verify that?
I don't know that the statute specifically requires that, the policy may. The statute doesn't give, the statute does not, the policy may.
Okay, I think the policy does.
Yeah.
Maybe we can check on that.
Yes, sir.
And have our documentation ready for the December meeting. But it does not require the applicant to wait a year and reapply before they have a chance to respond to claims of problems.
That's
As
correct.
far as you understand at this moment, without referring to the statute or the reference, regulation itself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Morris?
Yeah, I'm just looking for some help with the timeline. Can you help me understand at what point you recognize that there were 17 questions that weren't completed or incomplete? And from that point until the time that you notify the applicant of the problem?
I would love to be able to give you a timeline.
Well, can you just ballpark me?
I had a committee of about 8 people that were reviewing the entire application. We went through the entire application, and at that point we did. But that took a lot of time. It's very extensive. This is the first charter school that's ever applied in St. Tammany. I've only been superintendent for the last 11 months. So when I was trying to rely on, and we did rely on the department to guide us because we had never done this before. So we didn't know what was the protocol to the extent how we responded. Ms. Barker and I, we even had the Zoom conference because I didn't, and my group didn't quite understand what we were looking for. We had to look, so it took some time. To give you a timeline, I can't say, but it took some time to do that.
Okay, I'm just looking for some clarification there. Because
Sure.
on first pass, it just sounds like the problem was identified, but the applicant wasn't made aware of the problem until after the deadline expired. It doesn't really feel like, groups are working together for the best
Sure.
interest of kids.
Sure.
And that's my concern. So when you guys come back, if you could help us with that timeline?
Absolutely. we will.
I'd like to better understand.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Mr. Superintendent, thank you. Dr. McCarthy?
Hi.
I'm Daniel Arthur. I'm representing one of 4 families who carpool together from St. Tammany Parish, Beach Springs, coming to Mandeville. We carpool together to go to BESE Academy for our 4 boys. And it has been a godsend to have a school where our children are able to, I mean, they're within the 3rd week of my boy coming into the 3rd grade for this school. Sorry, I can't get the closer back.
Pull back.
Go back, okay. That a little bit better?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. My boy had never wanted to really even look at a book or do any type of reading at all. It was just so difficult, despite the fact of having a high IQ. He was very, very smart. I was in the 3rd week of coming home. He read 5 little booklets to me, which he's never done before. He was so excited to do it. And he also feels he has a place that all these boys, they have a place where they, the way that their brain works is different. It recognizes letters differently, but they're in the same environment where they have all the other students who are having the same issues. They don't feel so alone and so isolated and stupid, frankly, is what a lot of these kids feel. And I'm just here to represent those families. We are so thankful to have it, and these kids get up at 5 a.m. in the morning to get dressed, go to school, come back. They really only have a couple hours to do their homework, and they go to bed and do it all over again. So having this school on the North Shore would be fantastic, and it's something that's desperately needed. That was it.
Great, thank you. Mr. Morris?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. If you don't mind, thanks for sharing your story. I was curious, you said you had 4 children in the school. How long have they been in the school?
I'm sorry, what?
You mentioned that you had 4 children in the school.
I have 1 boy, but there are 4 families, each of which have a boy that goes to school. We carpool together to go to school every day.
Okay, and then your child, how long has your child been in school?
He's in 3rd grade, and one of the boys is in 5th, and so there are 3 that are in 3rd grade, and 1 boy's in 5th grade at LKA. And this is his 1st year
Okay,
at LKA.
thank you.
Sorry.
Great, thank you. Mr. Garber?
Yes. Is it Ms. McCarthy?
Hey, mic on.
Thank you.
Dr. MacArthur?
Yes.
McCarthy, I'm sorry. As Superintendent Job correctly pointed out, St. Tammany is one of the best school systems in the state. Very high rated schools, A districts, A, B, and C schools. But yet you found this school to be beneficial for your situation.
Yes, because while, and with all due respect to the superintendent, he said they do address dyslexia at their schools, and that they do have a curriculum, but it doesn't adequately address the children's needs. It's a method of doing it, but I would love to see the evidence on if that is actually working, because it doesn't. The kids are taken out of class for maybe an hour or so of supplemental instruction for reading, and that is what kind of they're working on. LKA is completely different in the way that in every single subject, in every class that they go to, they have the accommodations they need in order to understand the information. So if you can imagine that you can't read a sentence, okay, you're still working on that. Yet you go to your math class and there are instructions written on the board about what to do, and you're supposed to be able to read that and then follow the instructions. But you can't do that because you can't read, and that's in every single class where you go. But LKA is different in that when you go to a different class, just outside of learning how to read these sentences, you're getting accommodations. So maybe the instructions are on a computer and the sentence is read to you, or the teacher actually says what to do and reads it for you. And so it's every single subject, every single class they go to, they're in an environment where they can, where they can understand they're included and they get to do all the work as I'm not explaining that very well, but they get to just understand more, and they're treated, it's not just taken out of class and then you feel very different and you're teased because you have to be taken out of class to do this special thing. You function normally as all the other kids do.
Excuse me, but I think the word would be access. So what she's talking about is a child who can't read is not punished in a math class for not having, they're actually given access to the math
Yes.
because of the approach that the teachers are taking.
Yes, thank you.
I hear what you're saying. I would like to think, let me rephrase that and say I believe that the services that Superintendent Javi provides to his dyslexic students are very good. I think that maybe there are some small subset of students that maybe something different could work better. Even if the vast majority of dyslexic students are getting a good service at St. Tammany. But at the very least for you and the four families that you are familiar with, what Key Academy is doing is different and better for you guys.
Yes, and I think, you have to look at the new articles and new, just comparing the balanced literacy and things that are happening at that level and versus the Orton Gillingham, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that very well, the method of teaching that LA is using and how effective that actually is for these students. So that's also a big difference. But yes, they are getting a good, they're getting a good foundation, but it just doesn't, there are other methods out there that work better. They're coming to realize now.
And are you familiar with the Tangible Hope Parish school system? The
No.
job that they do with their dyslexic students? Do you know any parents that are going to Key Academy from Tangible Hope Parish?
No, I just know the three parents that carpool with me.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. MacArthur. We have one more public comment from Mr. Danny Garrett.
Chairman, members of the board, Danny Garrett. I'm actually here representing St. Tammany. I've actually represented St. Tammany longer than I've represented the Louisiana School Board Association. I've worked with them, actually met them when I did their redistricting a decade ago. What I have learned about St. Tammany is that they attempt to excel at every challenge that's provided. And in looking at their history under the accountability system, you see that. And it's in virtually every class. And if they find a deficiency, if they find a better way to do something, they adopt it. Now, I think part of the situation here, I think, is, first of all, I think it's kind of surprising. This is the first charter application I think they've ever had. As I appreciate, the application was incomplete. It was submitted right around the time where they were at Easter break. They disseminated it to the committee. The committee started looking through it, and it was after the deadline that they discovered that it was incomplete. And not having done anything, they reached out to the department. Now, if there is some sort of accommodation, and maybe Ms. Hunt is aware, because she does this area more than I do, if there is some way that the academy could be, does the deadline, does the all structure allow for them to fully respond to those 17 pieces, then submit it and have it go through the third-party evaluator like it would in every other district. Then get the third-party evaluator to make a recommendation to the school board so that the school board could actually vote on it. I think they're open to doing that. It's just the rules seem to say that there's a deadline. And if the application is not complete prior to the deadline, then it doesn't move forward. And that's why certainly if they want to come back next year and meet the deadline with a completed application, they don't have a problem. I would leave it to the department if there is a way to allow them to complete the deadline, to complete the application after the deadline or supplement it after the deadline, and still be within y'all's rules. So I will leave that to y'all. I just spoke to Superintendent Gabby, and he's willing to do that. He was willing to submit this one to the third party and to the board. It just, he felt constrained by the deadline.
Mr. Garrett, let me ask a question.
Yes.
Did anyone from the department, you, Ms. Barker, or you, Ms. Day, say to them that this was an incomplete application and they could not reach back out to them to ask them to complete the one-page form?
Not having been part of that conversation, I'll defer to Christine in a second, but I do want to call the distinction between two things, right? There's a local process, then there's the statewide process. We run the statewide process. For example, our process also goes through a completion check. When it went through our completion check, not to compare the two systems, process, but when applications go through our completion check, we give feedback to our applicants. We had this come up and we said, hey, did you actually need to submit this, right? It was the conversation. That is not something that we brought to you guys to say, is this a complete application? That is something that we used as a gating criteria to say, is this something that should move forward? Is this something that the department should spend $10,000 on to be evaluated by a third-party evaluator? Is this complete? In terms of like the dates and the requirements, we publish the local charter application, right? And then we set the deadlines between when that window opens, when that window closes, and when we need to have final decisions. It is my understanding, and please correct me, Christine, that the checkpoints within that window at the local time period is at the discretion of the local system.
So, but I have a much more specific question, Ms. Parker, and that is that anyone from the school system, superintendent, did you advise anyone that the school Key Academy was not able to move forward because this one-page form had not been completed?
No, sir. When in conversations with Superintendent Javia, I made it clear that it is up to the local school system to determine whether or not the application is complete, and if they choose to follow up and get additional documentation.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Mr. Morris?
Yeah, my question is to the principal. Based on the conversation that we've had so far, it seems to be pretty clear that this school is taking a different approach to educating students that are challenged with dyslexia. And so that, taking a very different approach like that is going to require, I would think, specific training for the educators. So I just want to learn a little bit more about what kind of training you guys provide for, or propose to provide for the, to educate train the educators at the school.
So, yes, it is very specialized training. It is not the same as a teacher certification. It is in addition to any training that a teacher would have just to learn to teach. And it's specific to what does it mean to understand dyslexia and then teach a dyslexic child to read. So they have to complete a minimum of 200 instructional hours. That would be instructional hours with someone who's certified to allow you to become a therapist or practitioners less hours, but our therapists who teach reading. So 200 seat hours in a classroom, and then 700 clinical teaching hours. That's teaching hours with students who have dyslexia. You have 10 teaching demonstrations, and you also have to sit for an exam. And so not only is our school accredited by MSLEC, which is a national organization, but also who we train with, our sister organization, the Dyslexia Resource Center, is accredited as well. So it's a very rigorous process, and it takes a minimum of 2 years to complete.
So I don't know if you guys were here earlier today, we had a lot of really good discussion about our concern for enough quality teachers in the classroom. In the BESE case, in your case, it's very specific. So just wanted to sort of test your level of confidence, right, that you're able to recruit and train educators for this specific challenge. So if you could give us just a little bit of insight about, how you find these people, and then it takes 2 years to train them. So can you kind of talk us through that recruitment and training process and help us appreciate how that works?
So we actually, the North Shore was a excellent and ideal location for us because there's there's a 90 teachers there that are trained. So we have people who are,
Yes, there are trained teachers in the North Shore area. Most of them were trained in Mississippi before our training program came into existence. Most of those teachers are not in the traditional public schools. They are tutoring children after hours. And so, again, our model is to give these children what they need during the school day so that they don't have to go after school to be tutored. And it is obviously more complete if they're getting all the 90 minutes and all the recommendations from the National Reading Panel, which is what our school is based on. I do want to talk about the DocuSign, because it was me that signed the DocuSign, and apparently it was during COVID. And when Heather sent it to me, and I signed it, and then it goes through the portal back to her. At some point, those checks were removed, and that is a technical error. One page of 246 pages, I believe. We also have the timeline from start to finish that we can send to you electronically or go through whatever the committee would want.
Right. We get Dr. Davis and then Mr. Garvey.
So first, I'd like to say that I have a niece and a nephew who have dyslexia who attended the 3D school in Mississippi, and they, by the time they left it in the 5th grade, they're in the top 25% of readers in the state. So I know that the model that you're talking about works. But I have a separate question regarding the board and whether or not, have the legalities of whether or not we get to look at an application that a local school board has not considered. And so I guess I would like to know when in this process, we as a board make the decision that they came to a school board and did or did not get a vote, and that we're still okay with considering their application when it seems as if they did not get a vote by their school board for all kinds of reasons. I think miscommunication, clerical, error with the COVID. And so my question is, can we consider this application legally? Like, I don't, what does the law say about the fact that the board did not vote on this application?
I would like to say, not only did we send 2 letters from the attorney to the superintendent, but we also sent it all to the board members as well. So we also called to make sure that the letters were delivered, and this was all before the deadline. So I feel like we did due diligence and just put that out there.
Dr. Cassidy, I'm sorry, in regards to her question, the letter, what was the letter about in response to you didn't complete the act?
So the lawyer sent, and we have hard copies that we can leave with you, but the statute that he referenced in the letters regards that the decision for reviewing a charter application should be made by the school board and not the superintendent. And so, again, 2 letters were sent, not only to the superintendent, but to all of the school board members, when we were still within the deadline. And again, we called to make sure that those letters were sent by FedEx, that they made it. And the second letter also asked some other questions by our lawyer as well. But we received no response from either letter.
Right. Thanks. Anyone else? All right. I don't see any other common cards. Ladies, thank you so much for your presentation. Great afternoon. Next, we have Madison Academy of Innovation. Folks, thanks for presenting to us today. Same as the others, please identify yourself and your affiliation with the applicant.
Good afternoon. My name is Lamia Haggard, representing Madison Academy of Innovation, Executive Director.
Good afternoon. My name is Benjamin Saddle. I'll be the STEM advisor for the Madison Academy of Innovation.
Great, thank you. You may proceed.
Madison Academy of Innovation. We started this initiative in 2019. We are applying for the charter as a Title II charter. We are located within a F district, school district. We're doing K through 8 with our student population of 270. So, our state mission is to provide students with the opportunity to learn a STEM-based curriculum using science, technology, engineering, and math. The Madison Academy of Innovation prepares students for the future economy through the teaching of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics using engineering, environmental science, and energy service as a basis for learning. The engineering design process will provide the overarching theme of the school, a